in the memories of many of them, may seem like nothing more than an outdated monster movie featuring radioactive ants crawling out of the desert. In reality, however, it stands as a landmark science fiction horror masterpiece that ignited the wave of giant creature films in the 1950s. Behind its dusty black and white frame set in the Mojave Desert lie stories that have rarely been fully told, from the use of real World War II weaponry to discussions that would later echo into the early days of NASA. Below are some of the most unusual, dangerous, and occasionally absurd facts behind the making of this cinematic legend. 20. The Fire of War, when real weapons took the screen. In them, 1954, the climactic destruction of the giant ant nest remains one of the most iconic moments in cinematic history, thanks to its overwhelming realism. In 1953, at a time when CGI was still the stuff of imagination, Warner Brothers made a bold and uncompromising decision to use real weaponry for maximum visual impact. They deployed actual M2 flamethrowers from the United States Army arsenal, terrifying weapons once used by American troops to destroy fortified Japanese bunkers during World War II. Even more striking, the individuals operating these weapons on set were not trained actors, but real veterans who had only recently returned from the battlefield. The deafening roar and searing blast of the flames did more than ignite the set. It resurrected the haunting memories of war, infusing the scene with a raw, visceral tension that no modern visual effect could ever fully replicate. 19. The Mojave Desert Inferno, when reality surpassed the screen. In them, 1954, the harshness of the Mojave Desert was not merely a cinematic backdrop. It was a genuine ordeal for the cast and crew during filming in 1953. Under relentless heat often reaching 43 to 46 degrees Celsius, 109 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit, the ground itself became scorching enough to burn through shoe soles, turning every step into an act of endurance. Actress Joan Weldon was forced to perform in heavy wool costumes to maintain her character's appearance, while veteran actor Edmund Gwen battled severe joint pain aggravated by the extreme conditions. Each time the cameras stopped rolling, the beloved Santa Claus of Hollywood would nearly collapse from exhaustion. The fatigue and discomfort visible in his performance were not mere acting. They were the authentic reflections of an aging body pushed to its limits by nature itself, lending the film an unsettling layer of realism. 18. The buried dream of 3D and color, when technical failure created a masterpiece. Originally, 1954, was envisioned as a visual spectacle, with Warner Brothers planning to shoot it in vibrant Warner color and cutting-edge 3D, the hottest trend of the early 1950s. Fate, however, intervened on the very first day of filming, when the expensive and cumbersome 3D camera system malfunctioned beyond repair. Faced with mounting costs and a tight production schedule, director Gordon Douglas made a decisive call: abandon both 3D and color, and proceed with traditional black and white cinematography. Ironically, this apparent setback became a defining artistic triumph. The stark contrasts of black and white created a chilling atmosphere, with the towering shadows of giant ants stretching ominously across the desert sands, an eerie visual language far more haunting and effective than the bright colors of the era could have achieved. 17. Walt Disney and the Ant That Changed History, a casting twist of fate. Although Walt Disney had little interest in mutant monster films, he took the time to watch them. 1954, for an entirely different reason, to scout talent for the role of the American folk hero Davy Crockett. Initially, attention centered on leading man James Arness, whose imposing physique made him a natural candidate. Yet Disney's keen eye settled instead on Fess Parker, a minor supporting actor who appeared only briefly as a Texas pilot. That unexpected choice would transform Parker into an enduring cultural icon on American television. Interestingly, Arness also benefited from the film's exposure, catching the attention of John Wayne, who later recommended him for the legendary Western series Gunsmoke. In a remarkable twist of fate, the giant ants of the Mojave Desert became unlikely kingmakers, launching the careers of two of the most iconic Western stars in television history. 16. The First 30 Minutes, a masterclass in building fear through absence. In the monster films of the 1950s, withholding the creature's appearance for a full 30 minutes was a calculated gamble by director Gordon Douglas. Rather than showcasing special effects immediately, he chose to psychologically torment the audience with the eerie stillness of the desert, mysterious, oversized footprints, and the vacant, traumatized stare of a mute little girl gazing into nothingness. That suffocating anticipation built immense emotional pressure. So when the first giant ant finally appeared, accompanied by its piercing, otherworldly shriek, the resulting shock exploded beyond control. During early screenings in Los Angeles, audiences reportedly screamed, and some even fainted from the sheer intensity of the moment. This art of concealment transformed vague dread into a visceral cinematic detonation, proving that what we don't see can be far more terrifying than what stands before our eyes. 15. The Underground Battle, when budget constraints forged a masterpiece. Originally, the climactic finale of them was envisioned as a massive spectacle set within the sprawling subway system of New York City. However, city officials flatly refused permission, unwilling to see their iconic transit system portrayed as a nest of mutant ants. A backup plan to film in an amusement park in Santa Monica was also abandoned due to spiraling production costs. Faced with these setbacks, the director made a pivotal decision: relocate the final battle to the underground sewer system of Los Angeles. Ironically, this constraint became a creative triumph. The cramped, damp, and shadow-filled environment created an unprecedented sense of claustrophobic terror. Audiences felt trapped alongside the soldiers in a subterranean labyrinth, where the ants' chilling screeches echoed through the tunnels, turning a cost-saving compromise into one of the most effective action horror sequences in cinematic history. 14. The 12-ton Mechanical Giants, a pre-CGI marvel of engineering, to bring the nightmare of mutant ants to life in them. 1954, Warner Brothers spared no effort in constructing two mechanical ant models, each roughly the size of a heavy-duty truck. These were not mere props, but fully functional mechanical beasts powered by intricate systems of gears and cables. Their immense weight caused the studio floor to tremble with every movement, as if a localized earthquake had struck. Even more astonishing, executing simple actions, like blinking or twitching antennae, required the precise coordination of four skilled technicians working in perfect sync. After filming wrapped, these metal performers were not discarded. Instead, they continued their legendary journey by appearing in classic series such as Bewitched and The Twilight Zone. These creations became the foundational ancestors of Hollywood animatronics, paving the way for future masterpieces like Jaws and Jurassic Park. 13. The Pilot Who Never Returned, Legend and Tragedy Behind the Scenes. In them, 1954, the appearance of the B-25H Mitchell was far more than cinematic decoration. It was a genuine war machine loaned from the U.S. Air Force. To pilot this formidable aircraft for low-altitude, high-risk maneuvers, the production enlisted Paul Mantz, one of Hollywood's most legendary stunt aviators. Mantz demonstrated extraordinary skill, flying the bomber so low that the force of its engines whipped the crew's hair violently and sent desert sand swirling into chaotic clouds. Yet the story of this sky warrior ends in tragedy. More than a decade after his work on them, Mantz was killed in a catastrophic crash while performing a stunt for the flight of the Phoenix. His death marked a profound loss not only for aviation, but also for the history of cinematic stunt performance. Those breathtaking aerial sequences in them now stand as part of his enduring legacy, a testament to the fearless artistry of a man who quite literally lived and died in the skies. 12. The art of visual deception, when 3 became an entire army. In the classic Them, 1954, audiences feel as though they are confronting a relentless army of giant ants sweeping across the desert. Yet behind the camera lies a remarkably economical reality. The production team had only 3 mechanical models at their disposal. These included one fully built ant for wide shots, a half-body model for close combat scenes, and a detachable ant head mounted on a crane to simulate overhead attacks. To transform these few metal performers into a vast, terrifying swarm, director Gordon Douglas relied on masterful cinematic techniques. By constantly shifting camera angles, manipulating harsh lighting to cast elongated shadows across and repositioning the models between shots, he completely deceived the viewer's perception. Rather than diminishing the film's impact, this limitation fueled creative ingenuity, turning a handful of props into a collective nightmare that felt overwhelmingly real on the big screen. 11. Fake money and FBI trouble, when movie props caught federal attention. In one chaotic desert sequence of Them, 1954, fluttering paper currency creates a striking visual of collapse and disorder. However, behind those scattered bills lay a tense brush with the law. In the 1950s, the use of real currency on film sets was strictly regulated, with the United States Secret Service closely monitoring any potential counterfeiting risks. To avoid legal complications and unwanted scrutiny from federal authorities, the production was forced to print its own prop money using materials, faded ink, and simplified designs lacking key security features. When the film premiered, sharp-eyed viewers noticed that the bills looked oddly unfamiliar. Responding to such observations, Douglas humorously quipped, "Maybe the ants chewed them up before they had a chance to fly away." 10. When sound becomes fear, the art of manipulating the audience's ears. In Them, 1954, the true source of terror emerges even before the creatures appear, a piercing, unnatural shriek echoing across the desert. Surprisingly, this haunting sound was not created with advanced electronic instruments, but through meticulous manual sound design. The audio team ventured deep into forests to record natural sounds, birds, frogs, and especially the rhythmic tapping of woodpeckers. They then painstakingly cut, reversed, and layered these recordings into a dense, multi-textured soundscape. The result was something both familiar and alien at once, a living, breathing distortion of nature itself. This dissonance struck directly at the audience's primal instincts, sending chills down their spines and casting a psychological shadow over the entire theater whenever that eerie sound emerged. 9. The script's scientific slip, when budget overruled biology. In Them, 1954, Professor Harold Medford delivers authoritative explanations about the giant ants, claiming they kill by injecting highly concentrated formic acid through stingers located in their abdomens. However, behind this scientific dialogue lies an ironic technical truth. Due to budget cuts, the mechanical ant models were never built with functional abdominal movement. As a result, in every attack sequence, the creatures abandon the script's premise and instead kill their victims with brutal bites to the neck using their mandibles. This contradiction between scientific exposition and on-screen action became a classic continuity error in film history. Yet at the time, audiences largely overlooked this inconsistency. The sheer terror inspired by the ants' ferocity overwhelmed any critical scrutiny. 8. When Warner Brothers almost discarded a legend, from B-movie to box office icon. Initially, executives at Warner Brothers showed little enthusiasm for Them. 1954, dismissing it as a low-budget B-movie about mutated insects, a genre they believed had already been exhausted. Skepticism ran so deep that one executive reportedly mocked the concept, say, "A movie about ants? Kids can crush them with a slipper. This indifference nearly doomed the project to obscurity, until a surprising development occurred. Rival studio Paramount Pictures expressed interest in acquiring distribution rights. That sudden external validation forced Warner Brothers to reconsider the film's potential. They retained the project and significantly increased its marketing investment. The result exceeded all expectations. Them became the studio's highest-grossing film of 1954, earning over $2.2 million, a massive sum for its time. It proved a timeless truth of cinema. Even the most seemingly absurd ideas can become legendary when executed with the right vision and conviction. 7. The star of The Thing who almost became an ant, a refusal that saved an icon. During the early development of them, 1954, James Arness, fresh off his breakout role as the alien creature in The Thing from Another World, received a rather bizarre proposal from the studio. The producers initially wanted him to don a massive rubber suit and physically portray one of the giant ants in complex close-up scenes. Arness flatly refused after seeing the cumbersome costume and experiencing the suffocating heat trapped inside it. Laughing off the suggestion, he reportedly declared that he would rather carry a rifle on screen than be buried inside a monstrous suit as Ant Number 1. That decision proved pivotal. Instead of being hidden behind latex and mechanics, Arness stepped into the role of the film's leading man, allowing his presence and charisma to shine. This not only elevated them, but also paved the way for his later transformation into one of the most iconic Western heroes in American television history. 6. The deceptive poster, when marketing outshone the director's vision. The original 1954 theatrical poster for them presented the creatures in a wildly exaggerated form. Ants with eerily human-like pupils and glowing, cat-like eyes, features completely absent from real insects. The marketing team at Warner Brothers later admitted that this distortion was intentional, designed to amplify horror and spark curiosity, especially among younger audiences eager to drag their parents to the theater. This creative liberty infuriated director Gordon Douglas, who believed it undermined the film's grounded realism. Yet, in practice, the strategy worked brilliantly. The sensational imagery helped sell out theaters and turn the poster into one of the most memorable promotional pieces of its era. In hindsight, this bait-and-switch approach became emblematic of the golden age of monster cinema, where spectacle and fear often took precedence over strict accuracy. 5. The film no one laughed after watching, from skepticism to collective nightmare. At the first test screening of them, 1954, the theater initially buzzed with laughter and dismissive chatter. Many viewers assumed they were about to watch a cheap, campy film about harmless insects. That skepticism vanished in an instant. When the first mutated ant emerged from behind a sand dune, accompanied by its piercing, otherworldly shriek, the auditorium erupted, not in laughter, but in terrified screams. The tension became so overwhelming that when the lights came back on, not a single smile remained. By the next morning, major newspapers ran sensational headlines, describing the film as a true atomic nightmare of its time. Them had achieved something extraordinary. It transformed abstract fears of nuclear radiation into a tangible, horrifying presence, replacing mockery with a deep, lingering dread that haunted an entire generation. 4. NASA and the Emergency Meeting. About ants, when cinema startled science. It may sound like a scene from a comedy, but the cultural impact of them, 1954, reached far beyond entertainment, into the corridors of serious scientific inquiry. Following the film's release, a group of young scientists and engineers associated with early American aerospace research, precursors to NASA, reportedly engaged in earnest discussions a provocative question. If nuclear radiation could truly alter biological size to such extremes, should we be concerned? The giant ant, phenomenon became so widespread that respected scientific journals of the time felt compelled to respond. They published detailed analyses explaining why such creatures were biologically impossible, citing physical laws related to skeletal structure and the limitations of oxygen absorption through insect tracheal systems. Yet the very fact that brilliant scientific minds had to address the plausibility of a monster movie speaks volumes. It highlights the immense power of cinema, not merely to entertain, but to shape public anxiety and influence the intellectual climate of the atomic age. 3. Giant ants at the Oscars, an unprecedented feat for the monster genre. In 1955, the film world witnessed a truly rare moment when them was officially nominated for the Academy Award for Best Special Effects. In an era when the Academy was notoriously dismissive of so-called lowbrow entertainment, the fact that a black and white film about mutant insects could stand shoulder to shoulder with more prestigious productions was nothing short of extraordinary. Although it ultimately lost to the heavyweight 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, backed by Disney's vast resources, the nomination itself fundamentally reshaped the perception of science fiction cinema. It served as a powerful testament to the ingenuity of its technical team, who transformed rudimentary mechanical models into something viscerally terrifying and emotionally convincing. That Oscar nomination was more than recognition. It marked a turning point, signaling the coming of age of the horror monster genre in the eyes of critics worldwide. 2. The door that can never be closed, a stark warning for the atomic age. In the final moments of them, 1954, as the lifeless bodies of the giant ants lie scattered throughout the underground tunnels, the film resists the temptation of a triumphant conclusion. Instead, Professor Harold Medford gazes forward with haunting gravity and delivers one of the most unforgettable lines in classic science fiction. When man entered the atomic age, he opened a door that can never be closed. The brilliance of this scene lies in its restraint. Director Gordon Douglas strips away all musical accompaniment, leaving only the hollow, chilling sound of wind echoing through the dark sewer system. The silence is suffocating. This is no longer merely the end of a monster story. It becomes an indictment, a solemn warning about the irreversible consequences of humanity's flirtation with nuclear power. 1. A title that burns through the darkness, a visual shock in the black and white era. In the cinematic landscape of the 1950s, audiences were deeply accustomed to traditional black and white imagery. Then came the opening of them, a moment that shattered expectations. Against a neutral void, the word them suddenly erupts in vivid, unnatural hues of red and green, glowing with an almost radioactive intensity. This was not the product of digital wizardry, but the result of painstaking hand coloring applied frame by frame onto the film itself, an expensive and labor-intensive technique for its time. Director Gordon Douglas insisted on this bold artistic choice to create the illusion that the title was emitting a deadly atomic energy of its own. The stark contrast between the blazing colors and the surrounding darkness delivered a jolt to the audience's senses. It was more than a title, it was a warning, a signal that something monstrous, something unnatural, was about to emerge from the shadows. In that instant, a simple word became an icon of terror, heralding the dawn of a new era of atomic age horror. Epilogue: the legacy of an atomic nightmare after nearly 7 decades. Nearly 70 years later, them, 1954, has transcended its origins as a conventional monster movie to become a haunting reflection of humanity's deepest anxieties at the dawn of the nuclear age. The giant ants are not merely products of mechanical effects. They are symbolic manifestations of a power humanity both revered and feared: the atomic bomb. The film's warning still resonates with unsettling clarity. The true terror does not lie in the grotesque shapes lurking in the desert shadows, but in human hands, the very hands that, knowingly or not, awakened the monster in the first place. Its enduring legacy is a sobering lesson that scientific progress, when untethered from responsibility, can become a force as destructive as any nightmare we dare to imagine.